In this video, I'm going to tell you my master plan to use crypto to make $10 million, make my family proud, make my dreams come true. Welcome back to the third ever Ruckcast, where I talk about my candid thoughts on the market, crypto, making content, and more while rucking. Got my weighted vest on. I've got my rucking buddy here, Jupiter, one of my Belgian Malinois, and we are ready to ruck. So, clickbait aside, what's this video really about? I think this is legitimately one of the best times in terms of risk reward ever to get into this industry being DeFi and crypto. And so in this video, I'm gonna lay out my plan for the next few years, what I'm doing, why I'm doing what I'm doing, why I expect this to pay off, so that in a few years I can come back and take a victory lap and say, I predicted exactly what was gonna happen and I executed on it. And so here's the plan in a nutshell. Right now, we're at this weird time where retail activity is at a multi-year low. You've got virtually no interest on social media, in search trends, in DEX volume. Well, DEX volume is actually holding up all right, but that's a different story. But you don't have like the on-chain tokens running to high valuations anymore. So the retail interest is dead for a lot of reasons. People are speculating elsewhere. Sports gambling took off. Prediction markets took off. More on that later. And also just people are focused on other things in the world. At the same time, you've got institutional adoption is skyrocketing. Bitcoin is at an all-time high today as I'm making this. Robinhood just announced, not even announced, Robinhood just launched stocks on chain. You've got major government institutions. By government institutions, I mean the US Department of Treasury talking about stablecoins are going to save the dollar and going to go to a $3 trillion market cap. You have the Senate just passed a regulatory bill for stablecoins. And then if you look at the numbers, the real numbers, stablecoins, tokenized real world assets, the percentage of Bitcoin that's deposited in DeFi, the percentage of ETH that's deposited in DeFi. Each of these things are on multi-year uptrends, and they're showing signs of consistent growth rather than bubble-driven growth like they did in previous cycles. And that's good. That's good, right? That's ultimately what you want. You don't want the sort of temporary bubble-driven mania that we saw in previous cycles. And so how can you take advantage of this? Well, the first thing is you want exposure to the asset class, right? And that's what most of you who are watching this video want. And that's totally fine if that's all that you want. And the way that I'm looking at the market now, the way that I'm dividing up my portfolio is two categories, not counting stablecoins, right? Those are basically on-chain dollars. The two categories are the big four, not a term I coined, but apparently that's what the big institutions are calling Bitcoin, ETH, Sol, and XRP. And maybe you don't like one of those, maybe you don't like several of those. Doesn't really matter. That's what people are calling it. They're calling them the big four. And so that's one way I'm dividing it, right? And to me, just to make it simple, I would say like 50% of my portfolio I want in the big four. You could be the worst picker in the world. You could suck at trading. But if the industry continues to grow, some basket of those four is going to continue to grow. And if you want to keep that really simple, just Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin's king. Some of you may have another one that you like more. I mean, you guys know on this channel, I've talked about Sol in the past. I've talked about ETH a lot in the past as well. So that's the half of the portfolio. And then what's the other half? The other half is going to be DeFi applications that are producing real revenue. By real revenue, I mean people are paying to use it over an extended period, years, preferably multiple years, preferably through downturns, through bear markets. People are continuing to pay to use it. That means they have real product market fit. And that passes that revenue on to token holders in some form. That's a big problem in this industry, is that you have a lot of tokens that, I'm not gonna name names. You have a lot of tokens that have a lot of activity in their app, but they don't pass that on to token holders in any way. And so as a result, the token doesn't do well. And there's no reason to think it would do well because it's not accruing any value. These tokens that generate real revenue, pass it on to token holders. I'm talking about things like Hyperliquid, where they use their revenue for buybacks. I'm talking about things like MakerDAO, I'm talking about some of the smaller tokens I covered in some videos recently that actually pass on dividends directly to token holders. And so that's the portfolio, and that's the way I plan to grow money that I'm making through other ways. But I think the real way that you can use crypto, and that I plan to use crypto, is that it's a fast-growing asset class, and with growth in the asset class comes money, and it comes attention. And so the way that I plan to use it is growing my own content and growing my profile in the industry. The great thing with making content is that it leads to other opportunities. So I started this channel 4 years ago, and at first I was just making DeFi tutorials, but now I've had the chance to partner with some top tier blockchains like Solana Foundation, where I recently published dozens of 101 videos. Hopefully some of you found this helpful. Partner with Injective to run a validator for their network. And having an audience, having a public persona also brings career opportunities. Like how I've been able to become the head of growth for DeFi Llama, which is one of the biggest, most used analytics dashboards in the industry, and in my opinion, the best. Obviously I'm a little biased, but I was talking about them for years, even before I started working there. And the point of this isn't to brag about all the things I've been able to do. The point of it is to say that 4 years ago, I was just some guy. I was just some dude who was making videos. I didn't even have a camera at the time. I had a microphone, right? I was just some guy. But because of the nature of this industry where it's global, it values, or at least doesn't mind, pseudonymity, although that's changing, unfortunately. And it tends to be more meritocratic because the crypto industry is built by people who are largely trying to escape legacy institutions. And one of the problems with legacy institutions today is they're not meritocratic. They value things like who can talk the best, who can BS the best, who can, in some cases, check certain boxes that they're trying to check. And crypto, in large part, was built by people who wanted to create something that was opposed to that. And I think they've succeeded. And maybe you'd even say I've played a small role in that. We've succeeded at this point. And so even though you're not early anymore, because people are gonna get angry at that you're not early, right? Or maybe in the later part of early adopters, but you've got the government getting involved at this point. You've got a multi-trillion-dollar asset class. You've got other countries getting involved. You've got major banks getting involved. It's no longer something that just exists in this esoteric world for a small group of tech enthusiasts. But the good news is you don't have to be early. You just have to be right. And in fact, because you now have this buy-in from governments, from institutions, the chance of like you going to jail, of your reputation being tarnished for the rest of your life, like even it was possibly 3 years ago, those risks don't really exist anymore. But the opportunity is still there. And the opportunity is you could become someone of importance in the industry. It's not too late for that. And especially if you choose an emerging niche, maybe a less exciting niche. Hopefully it's exciting to you, but it doesn't have to be exciting to the world. I think you'll be shocked at how little competition there is, and that you can actually become someone who's somewhat of an expert very quickly. The other thing you can do is that anything that exists in the world of traditional finance, traditional payment rails, traditional identity, storing any sort of asset digitally, all of that is going to have to be rebuilt on chain, whether that's something as simple as a job board, a newsletter like I've been running for years, data dashboard, analytics tools, human resources, all of that's going to be rebuilt on chain. And whatever it is that you know how to do or are interested in learning how to do, I think that you'll find ample opportunities to do that in the industry. And as it balloons from, say, a $3 trillion market cap class, I don't know actually what it is right now, but as it balloons from $3 trillion to 10, $20 trillion, then suddenly that's going to become very, very valuable, especially as you have stablecoin supply grow from 257 billion, I do know that one like it is right now, to $3 trillion like the Treasury Department is forecasting, and you have real world assets grow from being 13 billion to being say 200, 500, 600 billion dollars. And so how does this all fit together? Well, as I build out my content network, you can use that content network to also build out a series of products. So my plan is basically, and I'm executing this plan now, is to continue to produce DeFi content, build an audience, and then create useful tools that that audience would want to use. I already have several that I'm working on, several I've released, and tools can take a lot of different forms. And at the same time, I'm contributing to what I believe to be one of the best tools in DeFi, and I'll continue to talk about that on this channel as well. That's DeFi Llama, and doing that plays into the plan as well, because in truth, being a part of a major project like that gives me a lot of new connections in the industry, and it also builds a lot of credibility that is truthfully difficult to do solely with a YouTube channel, although I have respect for people who build YouTube channels. And then that's not the end of the plan. The plan is to then invest that portfolio back into invest the money I make using these things back into that same portfolio that we talked about earlier in the channel. And so then ideally, hopefully, that money increases from simply what I'm making doing my own ventures. That's the power of crypto, right? It's both an emerging industry and a growing asset class. And I know most of you are not going to take this advice. The vast majority of you are not. But I hope that at least a couple of you do. And if you do, please come back and let me know how it went for you. And I hope to hear some good stories. And for those of you who decide not to take my advice, well, it's beautiful out anyways, at least here in the Northern Hemisphere. And so I hope you enjoy your summer nonetheless.